I never thought I'd be the guy standing in his own kitchen, staring at a woman who used to crave his touch and realizing she didn't even want to be looked at anymore. I'm Mark. Been working as a union electrician for 17 years now. Asheville, North Carolina has been my home since high school. It's a good place, mountains in every direction, quiet streets, hardworking people. I've always been the type to show up early, get my hands dirty, and head home with pride in what I built that day. I wasn't after a fancy life, just something steady, real. I met Claire in the most ordinary way you can imagine, in line at a coffee shop. She was ahead of me, fumbling through her purse, trying to find her card while holding a book under one arm and a smoothie in the other. I covered her drink without thinking. She looked up, smiled, and offered to sit with me that morning to pay me back with conversation. 11 years later, I'd still recognize that smile anywhere. But I couldn't remember the last time she gave it to me. In the beginning, we were fire, not in the cheesy Hollywood way. I'm talking about long talks on our apartment floor, kisses in the car with the windows fogged up, and that kind of closeness where you can't stop touching each other, even if it's just your knees brushing under the table. She made me feel seen, wanted. I wasn't just a guy with a toolbox. I was her man, her protector, her partner. We got married 1.5 years after meeting. Bought a small fixer-upper on the west side of town. I renovated every room with my own 2 hands. She decorated it with warmth and intention. It felt like ours. Then life happened. We had our first kid, Logan, after 3 years. Then Emily came 2 years later. Claire switched to remote work when Emily was born, doing admin work for a real estate agency. I picked up longer shifts to cover the rising bills. Somewhere between diaper changes, car repairs, school pickups, and microwave dinners, we forgot how to look at each other. I noticed it first in the little things. She'd flinch when I kissed her shoulder in the kitchen. She stopped wearing perfume, said it was for going out, but we hadn't gone out in months. Her phone was always in her hand, and when we finally had a night to ourselves, she'd pick a crime doc on Netflix, curl up on her side of the couch, and fall asleep before I could say a word. I tried brushing it off. Figured maybe she was just exhausted. I mean, raising 2 kids, juggling work, and managing a house isn't easy. I gave her space. I took over bedtime. I made sure she had time for yoga on Saturdays. I kept telling myself, this is just a phase. She'll come back to me. But she didn't. One night, after the kids were down, I poured her a glass of wine, lit a candle in the living room, and played one of those playlists we used to listen to on late drives. She smiled, a polite, tight-lipped smile, and said, "That's sweet, babe." Then she kissed my cheek, said she was tired, and went upstairs. I sat alone on that couch for hours. Not angry, just hollow. Like the woman who once couldn't wait to crawl into my arms, now couldn't stand to share air with me. But I didn't give up. I took her out the next weekend, got a sitter, drove her to that little Italian place in Biltmore Village where we had our 2nd anniversary. I even shaved, put on the same cologne she used to say made her weak in the knees. But the whole dinner felt like I was dragging a ghost through a memory. She spent half the time talking about work deadlines and the other half checking her notifications. I reached across the table, tried to hold her hand. She let me, but her fingers stayed stiff, unmoved. On the drive home, I asked gently, "Do you still feel close to me?" She looked out the window and said, "I don't know. I've changed, Mark. I'm tired all the time. I don't feel like that anymore." I swallowed hard. Like what? She shrugged. Desire. That spark. I'm just not there right now. Not with anyone. That line stuck with me for days. Not with anyone. Like that was supposed to make it better. Like stripping me of my manhood was somehow fair if it was equally distributed. The thing is, I never expected fireworks every day. I knew life would get messy, dull even, but I never thought I'd feel like a stranger in my own marriage. So I tried to meet her where she was. I offered therapy. She said she didn't have time. I suggested date nights. She rolled her eyes and said, "What for?" I gave her space. Took the kids out more. Tried to give her rest. But every effort felt like shouting into a void. She didn't even argue. She just shut down. One night, I came home early. Had stopped at the store to grab steaks, her favorite red wine, and a chocolate cake the kids love. It was a Thursday. Nothing special. I just missed her. Walked through the door expecting maybe something. A smile. A spark. Hell, a conversation. She barely looked up from her laptop. "Oh, you're back early." That was it. I stood in the kitchen, bag in hand, and asked, "Claire, when was the last time you even wanted to be close to me?" She didn't answer, just stared at the screen. I walked over, gently closed the laptop. "Look at me," I said. She looked. Tired eyes. No warmth. "I'm not trying to pressure you, but I need to know, do you even want to be with me like that anymore? As a man? As your husband?" She let out a sigh, the kind you give when you're being bothered. "I'm just not in that place right now. I don't want intimacy. I don't feel that drive. I can't fake something I don't feel." And that's when something inside me snapped. Quietly. No shouting. No threats. Just a sudden clarity that I had been slowly bleeding for years in a relationship that refused to stop the cut. So I said the one thing I never thought I'd say to my wife. "Then maybe I'll look for someone who does." Her face changed, instantly. Not rage. Not tears. Just disbelief. Like I wasn't allowed to say that. Like I was breaking some silent contract where I suffer in silence forever. I walked out. No bag. No dramatic slam of the door. Just the sound of my boots on the hardwood as I stepped out into the night air. I ended up driving around town for hours. Past the school where I dropped Logan off. Past the frozen yogurt shop Emily always begs for. Past the life I thought I was building with someone who no longer saw me. That night, I slept in the back of my truck. Woke up sore, cold, and more clear-headed than I had in years. I wasn't walking away out of revenge. I wasn't trying to scare her. I just finally accepted that I couldn't beg for love that didn't want to stay. That night wasn't the end, but it was the beginning of something else. And she felt it too. I saw it in her eyes before I left. Something shifted, and neither of us was ready for what came next. It didn't hit me right away. When Mark said, "Then maybe I'll look for someone who does," I just sat there, stunned, almost amused, like he couldn't possibly mean it. But the door closed behind him, and it was quiet. Too quiet. I sat there on the couch for a few minutes, staring at the blank TV screen. No yelling, no fighting, no begging. Just those words. Flat, final, serious. And that's when the silence started feeling like pressure, like something heavy pushing down on my chest. At first, I told myself he was bluffing, that he just needed to cool off. He'd come back home in a few hours. Maybe sleep in the guest room like he'd done a couple of times after our bigger disagreements. But this time was different. I felt it. The way he said it, calm, steady, like a man who'd made up his mind. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared he'd cheat or leave forever, but because I realized I couldn't read him anymore. I used to know his every move, every tone. I knew when he was hurt, angry, frustrated. But now, he was still. That terrified me more than if he had slammed the door in my face. The next morning, he didn't come home. No text. No call. His truck wasn't in the driveway. His toothbrush was still in the bathroom, his boots still by the door. But he was gone. The kids asked where Dad was during breakfast. I told them he had a late work shift, a lie that tasted like chalk in my mouth. I tried to focus on work, answered a few emails, pretended to care about quarterly spreadsheets. But my mind kept drifting, not just to Mark, but to the way I had been treating him for months. Maybe years. I don't even know when it started. I used to feel everything so intensely. I craved him, missed him during the day, looked forward to just laying my head on his chest at night. But life became survival. Wake up, feed the kids, log into work, cook, clean, crash. The love didn't vanish. It just dulled. And instead of talking about it, I buried it. I got good at ignoring his attempts. I'd flinch when he touched me, not because I hated it, but because I felt exhausted, disconnected from myself. I couldn't even explain it, so I dismissed it. I started avoiding him without realizing it. Phone in hand when he walked in a room. Always too tired. Saying, "Not tonight," out of habit, not thought. Somewhere along the line, I stopped seeing him as my partner and started seeing him as background noise. But now he was gone, and the silence was deafening. That night, I looked at old photos. Trips we took before the kids. His smile, the real one, with that crooked left dimple. The way he used to grab my waist when I passed him in the kitchen. I couldn't remember the last time he did that. But more painfully, I couldn't remember the last time I let him. The next morning, I checked his Instagram. He never posted much, but I saw a photo in his story. Him at a bar. Nothing flashy, just a glass of beer, the corner of a dartboard in the background. But there was a reflection in the mirror behind the bar. A woman, blonde, laughing, sitting next to him. I stared at that image for too long. My throat tightened. I wasn't mad. I wasn't jealous. I was terrified. Terrified that he might feel with her what he stopped feeling with me. Terrified that she might appreciate the version of him I had taken for granted. I sat on the edge of the bed and realized something I had never dared admit out loud. I stopped trying. I stopped trying to be his wife, his friend, his person, and I had no idea how to fix it. 2 days passed, then 3. He didn't come home, didn't ask about the kids, didn't even reply to my "Are you okay?" text. And that's when the panic truly set in, because deep down, I always thought he'd wait. That no matter how cold I became, he'd stay loyal, dependable, always there. I had confused his patience for weakness, his consistency for obedience. But now he was gone, and I realized he was never weak. I was just blind. That Friday night, I poured myself a glass of wine and started rehearsing what I'd say if he ever came back. Apologize? Beg? Blame stress? Blame hormones? But there was no version of the truth that could clean up the damage I'd caused. On Sunday, I heard the front door open. My heart jumped. I ran down the stairs too fast, like I was 16 again, rushing to meet a crush. There he was. Same boots. Same hoodie. Holding a duffel bag. No expression. I tried to act normal. "Hey," I said, my voice cracking. "Just grabbing some things," he said. No eye contact. He moved like a stranger. "Can we talk?" He didn't stop packing. "About what?" "I've been thinking," I said, stepping closer. "I know I've been distant. I know I've pushed you away. But it's not because I don't love you. I've just been overwhelmed. Lost." He zipped the bag. "We've all been overwhelmed, Claire." "I miss you," I whispered. That made him pause. "I want to fix this," I said. "I want to be close again. I want you again. I don't know how I let it get this far." He finally looked at me. His eyes were tired. Cold. Not angry, just empty. "I tried," he said. "I begged with my actions. I begged in silence. You looked right past me." Tears filled my eyes. I stepped forward and placed my hand on his chest. He didn't move. "I'm here now," I whispered. He blinked, slowly. "Now you're here." After I stopped waiting, I leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't soft or sweet. It was desperate. I kissed him like I used to. Like I should have, months ago. Years ago. I felt his lips on mine for a moment, but they didn't kiss back. He pulled away. "I needed this from you before I stopped needing anything at all." Then he picked up his bag and walked out again. I collapsed on the couch and cried. Not because he left, but because I knew I did this. Not with some affair. Not with screaming or betrayal. But with slow, steady indifference. With neglect. With silence. For years, I thought I had control, that I could decide when and how we reconnected. That he'd always be there, waiting for the signal. But the truth? I had been treating my husband like a backup plan. And now, I wasn't his anymore. After that last kiss, the one she gave me in a rush of desperation, I knew exactly what I needed to do. It wasn't revenge in the dramatic sense. I didn't want to hurt her, didn't want to cheat, or post some cryptic "look at me now" story on Instagram. What I wanted was something quieter, sharper. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt for the last 3 years. Invisible, unimportant, like love had become optional. So I disappeared. Not physically, but emotionally. I didn't block her. I didn't argue. I just stepped away. I moved into a 2-bedroom rental near the South French Broad area. Simple spot, close to the job site. The place smelled like fresh paint and had 0 memories attached to it. No toys on the floor. No scented candles. No wedding photos on the wall. Just peace. For the first time in over a decade, I woke up and had silence. Not the cold, tension-filled silence I'd known in my marriage, but a calm kind. A clean slate. I spent the next few weeks rebuilding myself. Not in a cliché self-help way, but in a grounded, everyday way. I started hitting the gym before work. Nothing crazy. Just showing up, lifting, pushing myself. I stopped eating whatever junk I found in the fridge and actually cooked again. Eggs, steak, grilled chicken. Stuff that made me feel strong again. I started hanging out with Mason more. He was the only person I told the full story to, and even then, I didn't have to say much. He saw it on my face. We'd grab drinks after work, throw darts, watch the game. I didn't talk about Claire unless he asked. And when he did, I kept it short. She kissed me the other night. I told him once. He looked up from his beer. You kiss her back? No, I said. It felt like a stranger touching me. He nodded. Then you're done. And I was. But she wasn't. 2 weeks after I left, Claire started texting. First just checking in. Hey, how are you? Then it turned emotional. I've been thinking about everything. Then came the I miss you and the late night can we talk text that she never used to send, even when we were living under the same roof. I didn't respond. Not to be cruel, but because I had nothing left to say. I had poured everything into that marriage until I was empty. Now, she wanted it all back. Not because she loved me more, but because she realized what it felt like to be dismissed. And the silence was eating her alive. One night, I came home from work, showered, sat on the couch with a beer, and scrolled through my phone. There were 3 missed calls from her. 1 voicemail. Her voice cracked in the message. I know I messed things up. I should have seen how far I was pushing you away. I was just lost, Mark. I didn't mean to make you feel unloved. Please don't give up on us. You're still my person. I sat there for a long time after that message. Not angry, just done. That's when I met Riley. It wasn't planned. She was a barista at the cafe next to the supply store I always hit before heading to the job site. One morning, I walked in early, still wearing my work hoodie and jeans, and she smiled at me like I wasn't just another customer. Rough morning? She asked. Always, I replied. She laughed. Extra shot of espresso then. She started learning my name. My order. She'd ask about my job, laugh at my dry jokes, compliment my beard even when it looked like crap. It was small, but it reminded me that I was still a man. Still someone who could be wanted. Seen. We started talking more. Then she invited me to a small bonfire gathering with her friends. I went. No pressure, no drama, no baggage. With Riley, everything felt easy. One night, I told her I was separated, not divorced yet, not emotionally available in the traditional sense. She nodded, didn't push. Said, I'm not here to fix anyone. But if you want company while you rebuild, I'm around. I didn't know I needed to hear that, but I did. Meanwhile, Claire kept trying. I started getting long texts. She'd send pictures of the kids, Logan winning a soccer medal, Emily in a school play. I'd reply short and polite, tell them I'm proud. Nothing more. Then the messages shifted tone. I feel like I'm losing you. Please don't make this the end. Let's try counseling. But I'd already asked for that before. She said no, dismissed it like it was silly. Now, suddenly, she wanted to fight for something she let rot for years. She finally asked to meet. Said she was in a therapy, working on herself. I agreed to a coffee. She looked nervous when I walked in, like someone waiting for a verdict. You look good, she said. Thanks, I said. Been focusing on myself. I can see that. You look lighter. There was a long pause. She leaned forward. I meant what I said. I miss you. I'm getting help. I've realized a lot. About us. About me. I nodded slowly. I'm glad. I want to try again, she said, her eyes watering. I know I push you away, but I don't want to give up on our family. And right then, in the middle of that cafe, next to the bakery case and the hum of espresso machines, I felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No love. Just calm detachment. I needed you to care when I was drowning, I said softly. You didn't even notice. And now I'm supposed to forget everything because you finally see what I went through? I'm not asking you to forget, she whispered. I'm asking for a second chance. I shook my head. You had years of chances. She looked like she'd been punched. Her lip quivered. She reached across the table, grabbed my hand. Please, she whispered. I still love you. I pulled my hand away gently. I don't believe you. I think you missed the idea of me. The version that stuck around no matter how invisible you made him feel. Tears rolled down her cheek. But I stood up. Not cruel. Just final. Take care of yourself, Claire. That was the last time I saw her in person. 6 months passed. I filed for divorce. Peacefully. No drama. I took care of the kids, paid support, showed up when they needed me. But Claire? She faded into the background, the way I once did. Now, I'm still with Riley. She never tried to fix me. She just saw me. And Claire? She sends a message every few weeks. Still says she dreams about us. That she regrets it all. that she wishes she could go back. But I don't reply, because the most powerful revenge is becoming the man she never thought would leave, and watching her realize he's never coming back. My name's Kyle Bennett. I'm 36, born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. HVAC technician by trade. Nothing fancy, but I know how to keep people warm in the winter and cool in the summer. I clock in, I clock out, I don't complain. I'm the type of guy who shows up when he says he will, brings his own tools, and doesn't overcharge. You need help moving a couch? I'm there. You need someone to fix your mom's AC unit for free because she's on Social Security? I'm your guy. I've always been like that. Not the loudest one in the room. Not the flashiest. Just solid. Dependable. And maybe that's why what happened to me hits so hard. Because when you spend years doing everything right, you don't expect the person closest to you to look at you like you're nothing. I met Rachel when I was 26. We were both taking night classes at Jefferson Community College. She was studying business administration. I was doing my HVAC certification. She had that I'm going somewhere energy, always dressed sharp, even for class, like she had something to prove. I was the opposite, jeans, boots, flannel shirts, minding my own. But something about her pulled me in. She was sharp, sarcastic, had this loud laugh that turned heads, and somehow, she decided I was worth her time. At first, I couldn't believe it. She was the kind of girl guys wrote DMs to. The kind who got free drinks at bars. But for some reason, she liked how steady I was. So I made her feel safe. We started dating, and it just felt easy. I'd pick her up after her job at the leasing office. We'd get burgers at Five Guys, sit in my old Ford Ranger, and talk about life, dreams, fears, everything in between. We got married after 3 years. Nothing big, just a small ceremony in a park with a food truck and a cheap DJ who played 2000s hits. But I remember thinking, this is it. This is the rest of my life. And I was fine with that. I liked our simple life. We bought a little house just outside Fern Creek, 2-bedroom, nothing special, but it had a fenced yard and a big front porch. I fixed it up on weekends. She decorated it with those live, laugh, love signs and throw pillows with phrases like, bless this mess. For the first few years, things were good. I'd come home, and she'd meet me at the door, tell me about her day. She was working as a receptionist at a real estate firm, trying to get her license. I was grinding away, taking extra HVAC jobs on Saturdays to pay off the mortgage faster. We had date nights, Red Robin, sometimes a movie. I'd rub her feet while she watched those murder mystery shows on Netflix. She'd pack my lunch some mornings, leave a sticky note that said, have a good day, babe. But slowly, quietly, things started to shift. I can't tell you the exact moment it happened. It wasn't loud. It was gradual, like one of those slow leaks in a pipe behind the wall. You don't notice it until the drywall soaked through. She got her license and started selling houses. At first, I was proud. She was killing it, hosting open houses, getting commissions, dressing up in heels and blazers. I cheered her on, bought her a new laptop when her old one crashed, set up a home office for her in the guest room, gave her space. But somewhere in that climb, she started looking at me differently, like I wasn't moving fast enough, like I was the old version of her life. She stopped laughing at my jokes, stopped waiting for me to eat dinner, started going out more, networking events, wine nights with the girls, team dinners. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? I'd sit on that couch alone, cold beer in hand, scrolling through ESPN, waiting to hear the garage door open. Most nights, it didn't open until late. I'd ask how the event was, and she'd say, it's exhausting being around people all day. I don't want to talk. So I'd just nod and say, okay, and go back to whatever game was on. I try to bring her back into our world. Suggested we go back to that burger spot. She rolled her eyes and said, Kyle, we're not kids anymore. I mentioned a weekend trip to Nashville. She said she had a showing on Saturday. I said I missed how we used to laugh. She said I was being dramatic. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't abusive. I wasn't distant. I was just there. And apparently, that was the problem. You know the worst part? The silence. Not the yelling. Not the fights. The silence. The way she stopped looking at me. The way she'd be texting someone during dinner, laughing at her phone. And when I asked what was funny, she'd just say nothing. Some nights, I'd lay in bed next to her, and she'd inch away like I was radiating heat she didn't want. I didn't beg. I didn't push. I just absorbed it, like drywall. Just kept taking it in. My friends noticed. My buddy James, the guy I work with, pulled me aside one day and said, "Man, you okay? You look like you've been living in a fog." I just told him work's been crazy. He didn't buy it, but he let it go. Looking back now, I think part of me knew. I just didn't want to admit it. Because once you admit that the person you love doesn't love you back anymore, it's like the ground under you disappears. But even after all that, the distance, the cold shoulder, the missed dinners, I still tried. I bought her favorite takeout one night, Olive Garden, chicken Alfredo, and those breadsticks she used to inhale. I lit a candle, put on some music, try to make it feel like a date night. She walked in, looked at the table, and said, "What's this?" I said, "I just wanted to have dinner. Just you and me." She sat down, scrolled through her phone for 5 minutes, picked at her food, then said, and I swear to God this is word for word, "If you want to leave, go ahead. I'm not holding you here." Then she laughed. Not a giggle, not a nervous laugh. A real, casual, smug laugh. Like she just dropped the mic and walked off stage. That's when something in me cracked. But not in the way you'd expect. I didn't yell. I didn't slam my fist on the table. I didn't throw the food across the room. I just looked at her. And in my head, I heard this voice, clear as day, say, "She doesn't care if you go. So maybe it's time you do." I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I just stood up, cleared my plate, and said, "Thanks for dinner." That night, I slept on the couch. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't feel like I belonged in that bed anymore. The next morning, before she woke up, I left the house with a backpack, my work tools, and a single thought in my head. If she wants me gone, she's about to find out what that really feels like. You ever have that moment where something inside you just shuts off? That was me, the morning after Rachel laughed in my face and told me, "If you want to leave, go ahead." No fight, no begging, just cold dismissal. And something in me, it broke, or maybe it healed. I honestly don't know which. I got up before the sun came up. House was quiet, the kind of quiet that used to feel peaceful, but now just felt heavy. I made coffee like I always do. Black, no sugar. Didn't eat. Couldn't eat. I sat at the kitchen counter, stared at that stupid "Bless this mess" sign she hung above the pantry, and realized I was the mess. And she was already done with me. So I grabbed my work boots, my Milwaukee tool bag, tossed some clothes into a backpack, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, my toothbrush, my electric razor, and left. No dramatic note. No goodbye speech. Just walked out the front door while she was still sleeping in the bed I bought, under the roof I built, in the life I held together with both hands for years. I didn't even slam the door. Just pulled it shut slow and quiet, like I was sneaking away from a memory. I drove straight to my buddy James's place on the other side of town. James is the kind of guy who always has a cold beer in the fridge and a clean guest room, even if he never makes his bed. He opened the door half awake, hair messed up, wearing some faded Cincinnati Bengals tee, and said, "You good, man?" I said I left. He didn't ask for details. Just stepped aside and said, "Come in." That's the kind of friend you need in moments like that. The ones who don't make you explain your pain right away. They just give you space and coffee. That day at work, I didn't say much. Climbed into attics, fixed 2 broken units, replaced a condenser fan. My hands were busy, but my head was in a different world. I kept thinking about how she used to call me during lunch just to hear my voice. How she used to save me the last breadstick when we went out. Now she couldn't even pretend to care if I stayed or left. Around 3 p.m., I logged into our bank account from my phone. She hadn't touched it yet. I transferred half the money into a new account I'd set up months ago when things first started feeling off. Call it paranoia, call it survival instinct, but thank God I did it. Next, I froze the joint credit card. I wasn't about to let her go on a Target or Ulta shopping spree with my hard-earned money while pretending I didn't exist. I didn't touch the mortgage. I still had some decency, but I wasn't going to be her ATM either. Then I logged into our shared Amazon account, deleted my info, changed the password. Same with Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all of it. Not out of spite, just out of clarity. I wasn't part of her life anymore, so she wasn't going to be part of mine. That night, back at James's house, I couldn't sleep. His guest bed was too soft, smelled like old cologne and laundry detergent, and my thoughts wouldn't shut up. I laid there in the dark, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow, and kept replaying her voice in my head. If you want to leave, go ahead. The way she said it, like I was just background noise. Like I was one of those clearance sale candles she kept in the guest bathroom, once loved, now forgotten. But I didn't cry. Not that night. Not even once. I just felt numb. Like I'd finally run out of gas after driving on E for years. 2 days passed. No text. No call. Nothing. Then on the third day, she finally messaged me. It was a simple text. So you're really just gone? No, I miss you. No, can we talk? Just those words. Like I was supposed to feel guilty for doing what she dared me to do. I didn't answer. An hour later. Is this your way of punishing me? I still didn't answer. Then she called. I let it ring. Then again. I watched it vibrate across the nightstand. By midnight, I got a final text. You're being dramatic. This is stupid. And maybe it was. But it was also real. The next morning, I called my boss and asked if I could shift to more overtime work for a while, just to keep myself busy. He said, sure, no problem. That's the thing about being a guy like me. Nobody ever expects you to fall apart. They just think you're made of duct tape and diesel fuel. But I was falling apart. Quietly. I'd sit in the work van during lunch breaks and scroll through old photos on my phone, beach trips to Gulf Shores, Rachel making pancakes in that oversized Kentucky Wildcats hoodie, the one I bought her for her birthday. Gone. All of it. Gone in the silence of a woman who stopped choosing me long before I realized. One afternoon, James and I were on a job site replacing a heat pump when he looked at me and said, "You ever think about talking to someone?" I said, "Like a therapist?" He nodded. "Ain't no shame in it, man. My sister goes every week. Says it helps." I shrugged it off. But that night, I Googled therapists in Jeffersonville, found a small place with solid reviews, and booked an appointment for the next week. First session, I sat in the parking lot for 15 minutes debating whether I should even go in. But I did. The therapist, middle-aged woman named Allison, listened without judgment. I told her everything. How Rachel changed. How I felt invisible. How it didn't even feel like a divorce. Just like I vanished and no one noticed. She looked at me and said something I'll never forget. You didn't leave her. You stopped staying in a place you weren't welcomed. That hit hard. Real hard. The next few weeks, I started putting pieces of myself back together. I went to the gym. Nothing crazy. Just treadmill, some weights, trying to shake off the heavy. Started eating better. Cut back on the beer. Wrote in a notebook every night, even if it was just a few lines. James noticed. One night, while we were grilling out in his backyard, he said, "You're starting to look like you again." And I was. Slowly. Rachel, meanwhile, kept texting every couple of days. Sometimes she was angry. "You're a coward." Other times, sad. "I miss you, Kyle." And sometimes desperate. "Are you with someone else?" I never replied. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't want to reopen a door that she slammed shut with laughter. It's funny how silence feels like revenge to people who thought you'd never leave. She expected me to beg, to chase, to cry, but I didn't. I just packed my bag, froze the account, changed the password, and walked away. And I think that was the first time she realized. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't looking for anything. That's the honest truth. After everything with Rachel, I wasn't trying to find love again or even flirt. I was still piecing myself back together. Still waking up in the middle of the night with that tight feeling in my chest. Still checking my phone out of habit, like maybe she'd sent something that wasn't cold or manipulative, something real. But it never came. I was just existing, going to work, crashing at James's place, hitting the gym 3 days a week like my therapist suggested, even if I barely did more than 30 minutes on the treadmill. One Saturday, about a month after I left the house, I was at the Ace Hardware over in New Albany, just across the river from Louisville. I needed a new drill bit and figured I'd finally fix James's backgate since he was letting me stay rent-free. It was a small chore, something to keep my hands busy. I'm walking down the aisle near the electrical section, comparing bit sizes, when I hear a voice behind me go, "Kyle? Kyle Bennett." I turn, and there she is, Madeline Carter. Or Maddie, as we used to call her back in the day. She was wearing jeans, a gray flannel shirt, and a messy ponytail. No makeup, no drama, just real. We used to work together at Hensley's Heating and Cooling about 5 or 6 years ago. She was one of the only women in the shop, and she could hold her own with the guys. Smart, sharp tongue, always had her coffee in a stainless steel tumbler that said, "Don't talk to me until this is empty." I remember we used to joke around during lunch breaks. She'd always bring weird protein bars and make fun of me for eating gas station hot dogs. I blinked a little stunned. "Maddie? Wow, it's been forever." She smiled. "It has. You still fixing broken A/CS and saving grandmas from heat stroke." I chuckled. Guilty. We talked for a few minutes, nothing heavy. Just catching up. She'd left Hensley's and was now working part-time at a local hardware distributor while raising her son, Ethan, 8 years old. She'd split from her ex about 3 years ago. No drama in her voice when she said it, just facts. Like someone who'd been through the storm already and didn't need to relive it. Eventually, I told her I'd moved out recently. Didn't get into the whole Rachel situation. Just said things didn't work out. She gave me a look like she understood more than I was saying. Then she said, "Well, if you ever want to grab a burger and not talk about broken relationships, let me know." I took her number. Didn't think I'd actually call. But that night, after sitting in James's living room watching reruns of Pawn Stars and trying not to feel like a failure, I looked at my phone and texted her, "Burgers still on the table?" She replied in 2 seconds, "Only if it comes with fries." We met up 2 nights later at Bun's Burgers, a local spot with old license plates on the walls and milkshakes thick enough to bend a spoon. We didn't dress up. I wore jeans and a Henley shirt. She had on a hoodie and sneakers. No pressure, no weird tension. Just 2 people eating fries and talking like time hadn't passed. And I'll tell you something, she didn't ask about Rachel once. Didn't poke, didn't pry. She asked how I was doing, me, not my marriage. And then she told me about her kid, how he wants to be a firefighter, and how she just taught him how to ride a bike without training wheels. We laughed, really laughed for the first time in a while. And when we got up to leave, she hugged me. Not romantic, just real. And that stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, we saw each other a few more times. Nothing heavy. Coffee after work. Walks around Cherokee Park. One night, we hit up this local bowling alley, 10 pinstrike and grill, and she destroyed me. I'm talking 167 to 102. She was ruthless. Call me Grandpa Hands the whole night because I couldn't get my spin right. She made me laugh. But more than that, she made me feel normal. Not broken. Not like some abandoned husband. Just Kyle. One night, I opened up and told her about the night Rachel laughed when I tried to have dinner with her. About how that one sentence, "If you want to leave, go ahead," just emptied me out. Maddie didn't interrupt. Didn't try to one-up me with her own stories. She just listened. Then she said something simple. Sometimes the worst pain comes from people who don't even know they're hurting you. Or worse, they do, and they just don't care. And I realized she got it. She really got it. She wasn't trying to save me. And I wasn't trying to move on too fast. We were just 2 people with some bruises, trying to breathe again. The thing is, I never told Rachel about Maddie. I didn't have to. Rachel had already let me go the moment she laughed. But I'll admit, a small part of me wondered what Rachel would think if she saw me now. Actually smiling, eating curly fries with someone who looked at me like I mattered. I wasn't falling in love. Not yet. But I was finally feeling like I could again. One evening, we were walking back to her car in the parking lot of Kroger. Of all places, we'd grabbed ice cream and sparkling water like 2 teenagers. And she said out of nowhere, "You know, you seem lighter now than when we ran into each other at Ace." I looked at her, kind of surprised. "Yeah." She nodded. "Yeah, you're still carrying stuff, I can tell. But it's not dragging you down as much." That meant more than she probably realized. Because it was true. I still had nights where I'd sit up in bed, wondering what the hell happened to the woman I married. I still missed parts of Rachel, or maybe just a version of her that existed before things got cold. I still felt the sting when I thought about how fast she stopped trying. But for the first time, that sting wasn't everything. There was room for something else now. For conversations that didn't feel like walking on eggshells. For laughter that wasn't forced. For moments that didn't feel like performances. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of something real again. Not perfect, not dramatic, just real. There's something strange about silence. Most people can't handle it. After I left the house and Rachel sent those first few cold texts, the "you're being dramatic, is this your way of punishing me" kind of messages, I didn't reply. Not once. Not because I was playing a game or trying to make her suffer. I just didn't see the point. She told me to go. She laughed. And I went. But what people never expect is for you to actually stay gone. At first, she stayed quiet for a while too. Probably assumed I'd come crawling back once the loneliness kicked in. Thought I'd sleep on James's couch for a few days, get tired of microwaved food and man-to-man small talk, and come knocking like a lost puppy. But I didn't. And about 3 weeks after I left, the silence must have gotten loud for her. It was a Wednesday night. I had just finished fixing a ductless mini-split unit for a little old lady in Middletown who baked me banana bread as a thank you. I was back at James's, sitting on the back porch with a cold beer, boots off, just listening to the cicadas. That's when my phone lit up. Rachel. She texted. I didn't think you'd actually leave. I stared at the message for a second. Not in anger. Just surprise. Not because she finally broke her silence, but because even now, she still didn't get it. She thought I left to prove a point. What she didn't understand is that I left because I'd finally accepted hers. I didn't answer. 15 minutes later, she sent another. So this is how you handle things now? You just disappear? Nope. Still no reply. A few hours passed. Then came the real one. The one that peeled back a bit of that cold shell. You could have at least said goodbye. That one made my chest tighten, I won't lie. Not because I felt guilty, but because it was the first message that didn't feel like a power move. It felt human. Like maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel the weight of what she did. I didn't reply to that one either. The next morning, I woke up to 4 more texts. You're seriously ignoring me now? Is this because of what I said that night? It was just a joke, Kyle. This is childish. I put the phone down and made coffee. James walked into the kitchen in his boxers and said, "She texting you again?" I nodded. She's starting to unravel. He chuckled. Silence is a hell of a mirror, man. That weekend, I went to a farmer's market in St. Matthews with Maddie. Nothing big, just something to do on a Saturday morning. We grabbed iced coffee, she bought some local honey, and we ended up sitting on a bench watching this kid try to juggle oranges while his mom cheered him on. It was peaceful, the kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. I snapped a picture of the little stand we were sitting at, didn't even include us in the frame. Just a table with sunflowers and a hand-painted fresh jam $5 sign. I posted it on Instagram with the caption, starting to feel like myself again. I wasn't thinking about Rachel when I posted it, but it didn't matter. She saw it. How do I know? Because 2 hours later, I got a message that just said, "Wow, you've moved on that fast." And here's the thing, I hadn't. Not really. Not fully. But Rachel didn't get to say anything about fast when she had emotionally moved on from me months before I ever packed that bag. Still, I didn't bite. Didn't argue. Didn't feed the drama. I just put my phone on Do Not Disturb and focused on Maddie talking about how Ethan was learning multiplication and thought 6 by 6 was a million. The next few days, Rachel doubled down. First came the anger. You're with her, aren't you? Figures. She always had a thing for you. You're disgusting. Then came the guilt trips. You're destroying everything we built. Do vows mean nothing to you? I gave you 7 years, Kyle. But what she never acknowledged, not once, the way she laughed at me when I was trying to save our marriage. The way she rolled her eyes when I asked for a little time together. The way she shrugged off my pain like it was an inconvenience. See, Rachel was realizing something now. Something real. And it was eating at her. It wasn't just that I left, it's that I stayed gone. She could have handled a fight. She was used to battles, yelling, crying, slamming doors. But this, the cold silence, the fact that I didn't block her, didn't scream, didn't beg, just walked away, that messed with her. And I think, deep down, it made her feel small. Irrelevant. I was taking care of myself. I was seeing someone who treated me like I mattered. I was slowly rebuilding. And she was still stuck in the same house, probably pouring wine at 8 p.m., scrolling through my Instagram stories, wondering how the hell she went from he'll never leave to he doesn't even care. One night, around midnight, she called. I let it ring. Then she called again. I let it go to voicemail. She left one. Her voice cracked halfway through. I didn't mean what I said that night, Kyle. I was mad. I was stressed. I thought you'd fight for me. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. And there it was. That last sentence. I didn't think you'd actually walk away. She said it like she still didn't get it. Like walking away was some wild, unpredictable reaction. Like she hadn't been slowly pushing me toward the door for months. I listened to the voicemail once, then deleted it. I wasn't mad. Honestly, I felt a little sorry for her. Because that's the thing about taking people for granted. When they finally leave, you start realizing all the quiet things they did for you. The tire rotations, the meal preps, the late night talks, the showing up, the being there, every day, without asking for anything back but respect. And once it's gone, it doesn't echo. It vanishes. Rachel had made her choice when she stopped choosing me. And I'd made mine when I finally chose myself. You ever realize someone's only checking in on you because they noticed you stopped checking on them? That's what started happening with Rachel. It wasn't love. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't some grand epiphany. It was fear. Fear that I was doing just fine without her. And honestly, that's what cut her. When I was hurting, when I was begging for connection, she had better things to do. Real estate showings, wine nights, networking with some guy named Logan from her office who always commented "Fire Boss Lady" on her Instagram. I'd notice it. I'd see the way she'd smile at her phone when his name popped up. I never said a word. I just watched, and I stored it. But now that she saw I wasn't chasing anymore, suddenly I became interesting again. That's how it works with people like Rachel. They crave attention, not connection. And the second the spotlight shifts, they panic. About 5 weeks after I left, the messages got longer. Less angry, more emotional. Stuff like, "I keep walking past your side of the bed and expecting to see you there." Or, "I made chili last night, you're kind." I cried when I realized I didn't have anyone to eat it with. And then the real one. "I think I ruined the best thing in my life. And I don't know how to fix it." And I'll be honest with you, I didn't hate reading that one. Not because I wanted her back, but because for the first time in years, she finally sounded real. No pride, no sarcasm. No, "You're too sensitive." Just a woman sitting alone in a house that used to be a home, realizing how much she chipped away at it with every careless word. But I still didn't reply. And that's when she started slipping. One night, I was at James's place. We were watching the Bengals get smoked by the Chiefs when my phone rang. "Rachel." Again. I sent it to voicemail. 2 minutes later, another call. James looked over at me and said, "She's unraveling, huh?" I shrugged. She's starting to realize silence isn't temporary. That night, she left another voicemail. Slurred, emotional, all over the place. "I don't get it. I thought we were just going through a phase. You weren't supposed to leave. What's so special about this new chick, huh? What does she have that I didn't give you?" I sat there in the dark for a long time after listening to that one. And I finally said it out loud, mostly to myself. Respect. That's what she gave me. It wasn't about sex. It wasn't about looks. It was about being seen, being spoken to like I mattered, being listened to without sighs, eye rolls, or that cold little smirk Rachel used to give me when she thought I was being too emotional. See, when someone is emotionally starving, they'll settle for crumbs for a while. They'll tell themselves it's just stress, or they're tired, they don't mean it. But once you taste peace, you can't go back. And I had peace now. I go to work, fix people's HVAC units, get sweaty, dirty, tired, and I'd come home not to a cold silence or a snarky comment, but to James's dumb jokes and the smell of grilled chicken on the back deck. Or on better nights, I'd go to Maddie's place. We'd eat spaghetti while her son, Ethan, told me about dinosaurs and how he thinks his teacher might secretly be an alien. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't explosive. It was just real. Meanwhile, Rachel was spiraling in the quiet. She started posting weird stuff on social media. Cryptic quotes like, "Funny how people switch up on you once they get attention." Or, "Don't lose a real one trying to chase temporary highs." And she tagged no one, but everyone knew who it was about. Mutual friends started texting me. "Hey man, everything okay? Rachel's posting some heavy stuff." I just reply, "I'm good. Hope she is too." I didn't know any one explanations. Not anymore. Then one Friday night, I stopped by a gas station to grab a Gatorade after the gym. As I'm walking out, guess who I see sitting in her car, parked near the side? Rachel. Windows down, music playing low, makeup smudged like she'd been crying. She saw me, sat up straight, waved like nothing was weird. I nodded politely, gave her a simple hey, and kept walking. She called out, "Kyle, wait." I paused, turned halfway. "Yeah." She stood up, walked toward me. Her voice was shaky. "I was hoping I'd run into you. I don't know what's happening to us." I looked her right in the eye and said, "We're not happening anymore, Rachel." She blinked like I'd slapped her. "So that's it? You just gave up?" And this is the part that people watching will feel in their gut. I said it quietly, but clearly. "You gave up a long time ago. I just finally noticed." She didn't respond, just stood there with this hollow look in her eyes, like she wanted to cry, scream, hug me, slap me all at once. But she didn't do any of it. She just said, "You're really not coming back, are you?" I shook my head. "I stopped waiting for you to care. And now I don't need you to." And I got in my truck and drove off. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't lay in bed replaying the moment. I just breathed. It was like closing the final chapter of a book I should have put down years ago. And from that day forward, the calls stopped. The texts slowed. Rachel was still there, floating in the background, but her grip on me was gone. I had finally stepped out of the storm. And for the first time in years, the air was clear. There's a weird thing that happens when you finally stop living in survival mode. The silence doesn't feel scary anymore. It starts feeling peaceful. That was me. A few months after I walked out of that house and left Rachel in her echo chamber of sarcasm and regret, I started noticing the quiet moments again, and not the lonely kind. I mean the ones that feel like home, even if you're not home. Maddie was a big part of that. She never tried to fix me, never forced deep conversations, never asked for a label or posted cryptic couple photos. She was just there, consistently, calmly, like a safe place in a world that used to feel like a war zone. Some nights we'd sit on her back patio after Ethan went to bed, drinking cheap wine out of mismatched glasses, watching lightning bugs blink across her yard. No background music, no small talk, just to fill space. She never felt the need to talk over silence. And that was rare. One night in particular sticks with me. I had a brutal day. Middle of July, 97 degrees, 3 full HVAC jobs in a row, including a full system install a house in Shelbyville, where the crawl space was full of spider webs and one very pissed off raccoon. I came home drenched in sweat and exhaustion. She texted, "You alive?" I replied with a photo of my shirt, soaked through. She said, "I'll make dinner. Come by." When I got there, she was still in joggers and a tank top, hair in a bun, no makeup. She handed me a cold beer without saying a word and just gave me a long hug in the doorway. You know the kind where someone really hugs you. Not a pat, not a lean, but a full no-rush hug? That. And I didn't even realize how much I needed it until I exhaled into her shoulder like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. She didn't ask about work, didn't quiz me on feelings. She just made a grilled chicken salad, put on that 70s show, and we ate on the couch like it was the most natural thing in the world. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't Instagram-worthy, but it was real. After dinner, I helped Ethan with a book report he didn't want to write on Charlotte's Web. Kid was convinced Charlotte was way too chill about dying, and honestly, he wasn't wrong. Once he was in bed, Maddie turned to me and said, "You smile different now." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" She shrugged. "You used to smile like it hurt, like you were forcing it so people wouldn't ask questions." And man, that hit, because it was true. Back when I was with Rachel, I smiled out of obligation. Holidays, birthdays, dinners with friends, I'd smile to keep the peace, to hide the slow burn inside me. But it was performative, like flexing a muscle I didn't even feel anymore. Now, it came out of nowhere. Sitting in a kitchen, helping a third grader describe how a spider showed empathy was enough to make me laugh without faking it. So yeah, I smile different now, and it felt good to hear someone say it out loud. Around that time, I moved out of James's house and got a small apartment in Jeffersontown. Nothing fancy, 1 bedroom, carpeted floors, noisy AC unit, but it was mine. I bought secondhand furniture from Facebook Marketplace, picked out my own dishes, stocked my fridge with the stuff I liked. I didn't have to explain why I bought 2 types of mustard or why I wanted 6 pillows on the bed. It was peaceful, and I was starting to feel whole again. Maddie came over sometimes. She didn't move in. We weren't official. But she'd bring Ethan by for movie nights. We'd make popcorn, pile blankets on the floor, and fall asleep during The Incredibles or Home Alone even when it wasn't Christmas. One afternoon, I picked Ethan up from school because Maddie was stuck in traffic. He hopped in my truck, tossed his backpack in the back seat like he owned the place, and said, "Mom says you're the only guy she's ever liked more over time." That floored me. Not because I needed praise, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to impress anyone, and someone still liked me, just for who I was. Sweat, jokes, scars, and all. Rachel never got that version of me. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't value it. But Maddie? She saw it, and she respected it. And here's the wild part. I wasn't in love yet. I wasn't rushing toward some Hallmark ending. I still had moments where I'd wake up and briefly wonder what Rachel was doing. Still had random memories sneak up on me. Her singing off-key while cleaning, or how she used to wear my flannels around the house. But the difference was, those memories didn't hurt anymore. They didn't sting. They didn't haunt. They were just memories. And that, my friend, is when you know you're healing, when the past doesn't ask you to come back. One night, I was driving home from a late install job in Shepherdsville, sun setting, windows down, Garth Brooks playing low on the radio. My phone buzzed. It was Maddie. I answered on speaker. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she replied. "Just wanted to say something." "What's up?" She paused, then said, "I'm glad you left." I didn't answer right away. Just swallowed hard, kept my hands on the wheel. "You deserve better," she added. That moment right there, that was everything. Because when Rachel saw my quiet, calm love, she mocked it. And when Maddie saw it, she valued it. Not for what it looked like, not for the money or the image or the social media likes, but because it was real. That night, I sat in my apartment, sipping a beer on the balcony, watching the streetlights blink on one by one, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. There's a moment in every story like this. The moment they finally see you happy without them. Not pretending, not faking, not posting selfies with a fake smile in front of bar mirror. I mean really happy, at peace, calm, glowing in a way they never expected you to glow again, especially not with someone else. For me, that moment came at Kevin's backyard barbecue. Kevin's a buddy of mine from the HVAC company. Every summer, he throws a big cookout at his place in Lexington, invites old co-workers, some neighbors, a few people from his wife's book club. Nothing fancy, just burgers, hot dogs, cornhole, country music playing on low, kids running around with water balloons, and that one uncle who gets a little too drunk by 4 p.m. Maddie had never met most of these folks, but she was down to come. She wore this soft blue sundress and pulled her hair up in a messy knot. I remember thinking she looked exactly like Comfort feels. Ethan was with his dad that weekend, so it was just the two of us. I brought some beers and a tray of smoked wings I'd made that morning. We pulled up to Kevin's place, walked through the side gate, and instantly got swarmed by "Hey man," and back slaps, and "Is this the girl you told us about?" Maddie handled it like a champ. Cracked jokes, asked people questions, made friends with the wives. She wasn't trying too hard, just being herself. And that was enough. About an hour in, I was standing near the grill, flipping a burger, when I heard a voice behind me that made my spine stiffen for half a second. Wow, so this is what moving on looks like. I turned around. Rachel, hair curled, tight white jeans, heels in the grass, which made no sense at a barbecue, holding a red Solo cup and a smile that wasn't reaching her eyes. She wasn't supposed to be there. Apparently, she'd come with Amanda, one of Kevin's wife's friends. Amanda used to work in real estate with Rachel and still kept in touch. I guess nobody thought to mention to either of us that we'd both be there. She looked me up and down like she was scanning for signs of guilt or awkwardness. When she didn't find any, she looked over at Maddie, who was laughing with two other women near the back fence, holding a lemon soda. "She's cute," Rachel said flatly. I nodded. "She is." That response clearly didn't satisfy her. She shifted her weight, tilted her head. "You dating her now?" I didn't say anything for a second. Just looked her dead in the eye, then said, calm as ever, "She treats me like I matter." That's more than I can say for the last few years of my marriage. That one hit. I saw it in her eyes, that split-second flicker where her smile twitched and her throat moved like she was trying to swallow words she didn't know how to say. "So that's it?" she said. "You just done pretending I meant something to you?" I took a breath, stepped a little closer, so I didn't have to raise my voice. "Rachel, I spent years trying to mean something to you. You rolled your eyes at me. You laughed in my face. You treated me like background noise. Now that I'm gone, suddenly you're rewriting history like I was the one who didn't try." She scoffed. "I didn't know you were this bitter." I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm not bitter. I'm just not pretending anymore." Right then, Maddie walked up behind me and slipped her arm casually around my waist. Not possessive, not dramatic, just natural, like she'd been there all along. "Hey, babe. Kevin said the ribs are ready," she said, smiling. I looked at her and smiled back. "Awesome. I've been waiting on those." Rachel stared at us for a second, and then she snapped. "Unreal," she muttered. "I give you 7 years of my life, and you throw it away for some grocery store version of me?" Maddie blinked, stunned. I turned and faced Rachel fully. "Don't disrespect her," I said, firm but calm. "She didn't take anything from you. You gave it up the day you decided my love wasn't enough for you anymore." It got quiet, real quiet. A few people around us turned their heads. Rachel's eyes were starting to glass over, but she clenched her jaw like she was trying to hold herself together. "You're a different person now," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm just finally being myself. The version of me you never bothered to see." She didn't respond. She just looked at Maddie one last time, then back at me. "You'll regret this one day." Maddie chuckled softly and said, "That sounds familiar." Rachel shot her a glare, turned around, and stormed off across the lawn, her heels sinking into the grass with every step. I watched her go, and to my surprise, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel smug or satisfied. I felt free. The final thread had snapped. Not with a scream, not with a slam, but with a public meltdown that reminded everyone, especially me, just how much she'd underestimated the quiet man she pushed away. Maddie looked at me and said, "You okay?" I nodded. Better than ever. We went back to the grill, filled our plates, and sat on a picnic bench under a string of patio lights. I looked around at this normal, real, wholesome life I'd rebuilt. Burgers, friends, a girl who smiled with her eyes, music playing low, and I thought, this is what healing looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not Instagram perfect, just peaceful and real. It had been a while since I'd heard from Rachel. After the backyard barbecue incident, she went silent. No texts, no voicemails, no Instagram story jabs, nothing. And for a second, I honestly thought she might have finally let go, accepted the fact that I was never walking through her front door again. But peace doesn't last long with someone like her, especially when they're losing control. It was a Sunday morning. I had just gotten back from picking up donuts with Maddie and Ethan. We were back at my apartment, still in pajamas, watching Shark Tank reruns and arguing over whether or not the guy with the pet treadmill business was a genius or a lunatic. That's when my phone buzzed. Rachel. First time in weeks. I ignored it. Let's sit on the kitchen counter while I poured Ethan a glass of chocolate milk and Maddie reheated her coffee. I didn't need to check it right away. I already knew what kind of message it was going to be. But later that night, after they'd gone home, I sat on the edge of the bed, picked up my phone, and finally opened it. It was long. A wall of text. No greeting. No emojis. Just raw. Emotional. Typed out confusion disguised as sincerity. Here's what it said. You probably won't even read this, but I don't know how else to say this. I know I messed up. I didn't know how to appreciate someone like you until you were gone. I thought you'd always be there, no matter what. I thought I had more time to fix things. I didn't realize how quiet the house would feel without you. I miss your dumb jokes. I miss waking up to coffee already made. I miss feeling safe. I was going through stuff, and I pushed you away, and you left. I just wish you had fought a little harder for me. I don't blame you for being done. I just needed to say it. I still love you, even if it's too late. I read it twice, slowly, and you know what I felt? Not anger, not sadness, not even validation, just clarity, because every line in that message came from a place of fear, not love. She didn't miss me when I was there trying. She missed me when I was gone, thriving. She missed what I did for her, not who I was. She missed the stability, the comfort, the guy who made her dinner and fixed the garbage disposal. The guy who stayed loyal when she rolled her eyes at everything he said. The man who loved her even when she treated him like a burden. But she never said she was sorry for how she treated me. She never owned the laugh, the silence, the cold bedroom, the years of emotional neglect dressed up as "you're too sensitive." She didn't want me back. She wanted the version of me that would tolerate being invisible again. And that man? He didn't exist anymore. I sat there for a few minutes, thumb hovering over the screen, thinking about how to respond, if I should respond at all. Part of me wanted to delete it and move on. But something told me that if I didn't say this now, she'd keep chasing ghosts. So I typed, slow, simple, clear. I did love you, and I did fight, for years, while you shut me out, mocked me, and acted like I wasn't enough. You didn't lose me because I didn't fight. You lost me because I finally stopped. I'm not the man you used to ignore, and you're not the woman I need anymore. I truly hope you find peace, but you won't find it in me. I stared at the message for a few seconds, then hit send, and that was it. I turned my phone off, got up, brushed my teeth, and went to bed. The next morning, I didn't even check to see if she replied, because her response didn't matter anymore. The closure wasn't in what she had to say. It was in what I no longer needed to hear. That whole week, I felt lighter, not giddy, not like some guy dancing in the rain to a breakup song, just steady, unshakable, like a man who had finally put down a burden he carried for too long. I told Maddie about the message, not to create drama, just to be open. She nodded after I read it to her, then said, "You didn't even flinch, did you?" I smiled, not even a little. She leaned into me on the couch, her head on my shoulder. "That's what healing looks like," she said, and she was right. A few days later, I ran into Amanda, the friend who'd brought Rachel to that barbecue, while I was picking up supplies at Lowe's. She came up to me with a smile, but it was the kind of smile people wear when they're trying to say something heavy. "Hey, Kyle, I know it's not my business, but I just wanted to say, Rachel's not doing great. I think she really thought you'd come back eventually." I nodded, respectfully. "I hope she finds her footing." Amanda looked at me a little closer and said, "You're different now." And I said, "Yeah, I don't chase closed doors anymore." Here's the thing people don't always understand. Healing isn't loud. It's not slamming doors or posting cryptic quotes or burning old photos. Sometimes it's just quietly outgrowing the place you once begged to be seen. Rachel thought I'd come back, thought I'd see one heartfelt message and snap back in her life like nothing ever happened. But real growth isn't reversible. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was just done with explaining myself to someone who never really wanted to understand me. Done with trying to convince someone to love me the way I deserved. Done with mistaking pain for loyalty. I chose peace. And when you've tasted peace, real peace, chaos doesn't tempt you anymore. Not even when it texts you late at night saying, "I still love you." I think one of the most underrated forms of revenge is moving on and doing better without needing to announce it. No grand post, no victory lap, just living well. That's it. After that final message from Rachel, the "I still love you" monologue and my calm, honest reply, I expected a little noise, maybe one more guilt trip or blame shift. But nothing came. She went quiet, and I didn't chase the silence. Instead, I kept moving forward, not just existing, not just surviving, but really living. That kind of slow, steady, brick by brick progress you don't notice until one day you look around and realize, damn, this feels like home again. I got promoted at work. My boss pulled me aside one day after a job in Shelbyville, clapped me on the back, and said, "You've been showing up like a man with something to prove, Kyle. Want a lead position?" And I said, "Only if I still get my hands dirty." He laughed. "You'll always be a wrench guy, huh?" So I became team lead. A little more pay, a little more headache, but it felt good. Felt earned. With the raise, I upgraded my apartment to a 2-bedroom just outside Jeffersontown. Enough space for Ethan to have his own room when he stayed over, which was starting to happen more often. Maddie and I were still taking things slow. No pressure. No "what are we" talks every 2 days. Just real connection. She'd stay the night on weekends. We'd do puzzles sometimes, actual puzzles, 500 pieces on the dining table. Or we'd watch Better Call Saul with a pizza and argue about whether or not Jimmy was a villain. It was simple, comfortable, the kind of relationship that didn't feel like walking on eggshells. And that's when I realized something. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't feel like I was failing at being loved. I didn't feel like I had to convince someone I was enough. I didn't feel like I had to explain the way I talk, or apologize for being tired, or be embarrassed for showing emotion. I was just me, and someone actually liked that. Meanwhile, Rachel? Well, I wasn't keeping tabs, but life has a way of circling back. About 2 months after I sent her that final message, I ran into Lisa, one of Rachel's old real estate coworkers, at a local gas station. I was grabbing Gatorade and a pack of gum, and she spotted me by the fridge aisle. Kyle? Hey, we caught up for a minute. She asked how I was doing. I told her I was good, nothing flashy, just steady. She nodded slowly, then said, You know, Rachel's been kind of mess lately. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, she quit the agency. Tried going solo, but her listings dried up. Something about a bad client review. I don't know. She hasn't been herself. Keeps posting weird stuff online, like angry breakup quotes and vague stories. I just nodded. Hope she figures things out. Lisa looked at me for a second longer, then said, She talks about you a lot, you know? Always like she didn't think you'd actually move on. I didn't answer, because I had. A few days later, I got a DM from a burner Instagram account. No profile picture, no followers, but I knew it was her. The writing style gave it away. That weird mix of sarcasm and vulnerability. It said, Must be nice. You're glowing these days. Hope she's worth everything you threw away. I didn't reply. Not because I was trying to win a silent war, but because I was finally past the point of needing to defend my peace. And that's the difference between her and me now. I wasn't pretending to be happy on social media. I wasn't cryptically attacking people through stories or dragging my past behind me like a weapon. I was just living. One Saturday afternoon, Maddie and I took Ethan to Bernheim Forest. It was sunny, warm, with that early fall breeze rolling through the trees. We hiked one of the easier trails, packed sandwiches, and had a little picnic near the creek. Ethan skipped rocks while Maddie sat beside me, her head on my shoulder, just breathing in the calm. It was one of those moments you don't even realize is going to stick with you forever until you're driving home, and you can't stop smiling. Later that night, while Ethan was passed out on the couch and we were watching some random documentary, I looked over and said, You know I was a ghost before you, right? She turned to me. What do you mean? I didn't even recognize myself toward the end of that marriage. I was showing up for someone who didn't even look up when I walked in the room. Maddie took my hand, squeezed it. You're not a ghost anymore. And she was right. Rachel, from what little I've heard, started burning bridges. The friends he used to hype her up got tired of the constant drama. She started making passive-aggressive posts like, Funny how people only care when they lose access to you. Or, loyalty is dead. People just switch up for the next best thing. Every once in a while, someone would send me a screenshot like, Yo, is this about you? I'd just reply, Probably, and move on. Because that's what growth looks like, not needing to correct the narrative anymore. I didn't care what she told people. I cared that I was showing up to work on time, paying my bills, showing kindness to people who deserved it, and sleeping like a man who wasn't carrying regret anymore. Rachel collapsed slowly, not dramatically, not all at once. Her business dropped off. Her circle got smaller. Her online persona got messy. Meanwhile, I was getting invited to cookouts. I was building furniture with Ethan. I was getting texts from Maddie during the day that said things like, Hope your day's going smooth. I appreciate you. And for a guy who used to come home to eye rolls and cold shoulders, that one sentence meant everything. You know what the real revenge is? It's peace. It's walking into your place after a long day, kicking your boots off, smelling something cooking on the stove, and hearing someone in the next room laugh just because they're happy to be around you. It's realizing you don't flinch when you get a text from your ex. It's noticing that you don't miss them anymore. You miss who you thought they were. And once you stop chasing ghosts, you realize how much living you've been missing out on. Rachel may never admit what she lost, but that's okay, because I know what I found, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. You ever have one of those mornings where nothing special happens, but it just feels right? The sun comes in through the blinds. You hear the sound of coffee brewing in the kitchen. There's no chaos, no tension, no cold shoulders, just stillness. That's what peace feels like. I had one of those mornings not long ago. I woke up around 7, no alarm. Maddie was already up, sitting cross-legged on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders, sipping her coffee and scrolling through her phone with that half-asleep look in her eyes. Ethan was still passed out in his room, snoring like a grown man, even though he's only 8. I stood there for a second in the hallway, just watching them. And that's when it really hit me. This is what home is supposed to feel like. Not grand, not perfect, but safe, honest, real. It had been over a year since I walked out of that house, the one Rachel and I shared, with a backpack, a pair of boots, and no plan. And looking back now, it almost feels like it was someone else's life. Like I was watching some other guy go through it all. The emotional starvation, the begging, the quiet nights spent wondering where he went wrong. But it was me. That was my story. And this is my life now. Maddie and I didn't rush things. We kept it real. Over time, we naturally started spending more nights together. Then weekends. Then weekdays. Eventually, we had this should we just make this official talk while grocery shopping, mid-aisle, right between the canned soups and the tortilla chips. It wasn't a big declaration. She just looked over and said, "You realize we practically live together, right?" I smiled. I was hoping you'd notice. She laughed. "Well, if you're going to keep eating my cereal, you might as well stay." And that was it. No fireworks. No awkward speech. Just two people finally ready for something that felt like stability. I got a better job offer about 6 months ago, HVAC supervisor at a small but growing company in Elizabethtown. Better hours, better pay, and they trust me to train the younger techs. I love that part, getting to show these 22-year-old guys how to crawl through a tight attic without frying themselves or busting a knee. Feels good to be respected for what I know. Feels even better to come home to someone who respects me for who I am. Maddie and I took a weekend trip a few months back. Just the two of us. Left Ethan with his grandparents, packed up the car, and drove out to Red River Gorge. We hiked. We sat by a fire. We drank whiskey under the stars. And on the last night, out of nowhere, she turned to me and said, "You've changed so much since I first saw you in that hardware store." I looked at her. "Good change." She nodded. "You don't carry yourself like a man waiting to be hurt anymore." Man, if you've ever been through emotional neglect, you know how deep that hits. That sentence stuck with me. Still does. Rachel? I haven't seen her in almost a year. I hear things through the grapevine, sometimes. Apparently, she's bounced around a few jobs. Went into coaching for a bit. One of those empower women kinds of things, but it didn't last. Her Instagram's full of self-love isn't selfish quotes layered over moody selfies and cryptic captions. I don't follow. Don't check. But people send stuff sometimes. I don't even react anymore. Because the truth is, I don't miss her. Not even a little. I don't hate her either. And that might be the wildest part. I don't feel anything about her now. She's just someone I used to know. I know what some people expect at the end of stories like this. They expect the dramatic revenge, the ex begging at your door, the slow clap ending. But sometimes the best ending is the quiet one. No confrontation, no public, "I told you so," just healing, growth, and peace. The kind of peace that doesn't demand attention. The kind you wake up to one morning and realize you built for yourself, brick by brick, breath by breath. One night, not long ago, I was driving home from picking Ethan up from soccer practice. He was half asleep in the back seat, grass stains on his socks, holding a water bottle like it was a trophy. We were listening to some old country song on the radio, one of those bittersweet, slow ones about second chances and quiet love. And I found myself tearing up. Not because I was sad, not even because I was overwhelmed, but because I was just grateful. Grateful that I made it through that storm. Grateful that I didn't stay where I wasn't loved. Grateful that I didn't let someone else's cold heart convince me that I was hard to care for. Grateful that I walked away. Because walking away, that was the moment everything started. Not the day I met Maddie. Not the day Rachel sent the apology. The day I walked away from being invisible. That was the beginning of this whole new life. So if you're listening to this right now, and you're in that stage, that numb, confusing, gut-wrenching phase where someone you love is treating you like an option while you treat them like a priority, let me say this. You don't have to stay in pain to prove you're loyal. You don't have to beg someone to choose you when they keep showing you they won't. And you absolutely don't owe anyone your peace just because you used to love them. Walk away if you have to. Not to hurt them, but to save yourself. I don't have a perfect life now. It's not a movie. Bills still come. Work still gets stressful. Ethan still throws a fit when he loses in Mario Kart. But I wake up every day knowing I'm not invisible anymore. I'm not someone's backup plan. I'm not the emotional punching bag. I'm not the guy sitting at the dinner table with a plate of cold food, wondering where everything went wrong. I'm just a man who finally chose peace over chaos, love over ego, truth over image. And you know what? That's more than enough for me.